welcome to the Never Seen It podcast, the only podcast called Never Seen It that's worth listening to. With us tonight, Mr. Arnie, the one-man party, is here. Arnold Callego, Mr. Daily Dares, a.k.a. Filipino Grigio, a.k.a. Alex Callego, the brothers Callego, Mr. Donnie Appleseed, a.k.a. Donnie Guzman, the cousins Callego / Guzman, Mr. Ghost Nerd 88, a.k.a. Justin Holden, Mr. Milkman America, a.k.a. Chris, is here. Of course, the return special guest, second time running. One more, she gets a set of steak knives. Welcome back, Jessica Kwazz, to the show. And then there's me, Boots Too Big, a.k.a. Adrian De La Torre. Did I miss somebody? I feel like you're about to say something, Alex. I don't think I missed anybody, did I?
My buddy John.
Yeah, John is here. He's
Donald.
Lower frame. No, I said Donnie.
Oh, you did?
Donnie Appleseed, yeah.
Oh, my
Cousins
God.
Callego. I said, no, don't screw me up. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm
It's
all good.
Okay.
And the film we're discussing tonight is the 2009 Jennifer's Body, directed by Karyn Kusama, starring Megan Fox, Amanda Seyfried, Johnny Simmons, Adam Brody, J.K. Simmons, who was a pleasant surprise. Didn't have much to do, but he was in there. And one of my favorite comedians, Amy Sedaris, in a very tiny role, but I was pleasantly surprised to see Amy Sedaris. We're going to watch the trailer because the marketing for this movie is very relevant to the discussion, I think. So let's do that really quick.
This isn't really your house, is it?
We can play mommy and daddy.
No way.
All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. That's the trailer for Jennifer's Body. It stars Megan Fox, but let's be real. The real star of the story is Amanda Seyfried's character, Needy, which is also an interesting name, I think. But Jessica, you chose this movie. We talked about it last time we recorded when we did our episode on Speed Racer. Tell us, why did you choose Jennifer's Body?
Well, it actually came up organically in our last conversation with Speed Racer because we were talking about how they didn't know how to market Speed Racer. And I said, yeah, that was sort of a common thing back around the early 2000s where they didn't know how to market movies. And the perfect example of that is Jennifer's Body. And then you said you hadn't seen it because of how it was marketed. So it was the perfect segue to have this be the next movie. So thank you guys again for having me. I'm so excited to talk about it. And I'm glad it just kind of came up that way. But yeah, gosh, watching that trailer just now, it's still so ridiculous to me. I'm giggling at it because of how stupid it is. It just takes every sexual moment from that movie and throws it in your face of see, don't you want to see this? And
Right.
It just downplays how smart of a movie it actually is. And so I'm really glad to be discussing it because it's so much more than what the trailer or any sort of marketing made it seem. And fun fact, I was looking a little details into the marketing earlier today, and I learned that 20th Century Fox actually wanted Megan Fox to do a live stream on a porn site as a way to market the movie. And the director,
Wow.
Karyn Kusama, it was an all-male marketing team, by the way. They were wanting to market this to men, even though it's a very female audience type of movie. I guess they just thought with our little woman brains, we wouldn't get it. So they wanted her to do a live stream on a porn site. And the director just said to them, don't even ask Megan because that is so disrespectful and she'll be so upset to hear that. Absolutely not. So yeah, it's such a brilliant movie. It's so unique. It's so different. And they just were I don't know, we'll just make it sexy, I guess. That'll get people to see it.
That's marketing people for you. It's always some marketing MBA who gets paid more than six figures to come up with shit like this.
There's a lot of movies that are like that, right? Fight Club is another good example where they had a $63 million budget and they only barely made $100 million when they was released in the theaters. And it wasn't until later where physical media was released when they became a cult classic. So other movies that are big that weren't really big at the time when it released was like Blade Runner. Big Lebowski was another one.
Yeah.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So there's a lot of them where they just fail on the marketing side of it.
Yeah, for so many different reasons, because marketers aren't storytellers, and storytellers, unfortunately, aren't marketers, I think that's why Chris Nolan has, a hand in every aspect of his movies from beginning to end. He has a hand even on the marketing side of things, because he knows, I need to control the narrative, both on the screen and off the screen, right? That's how much of and I hate to say this word, but for lack of a better word, auteur he is, I think. Alex, you had something?
Yeah, so there was an interview that happened on Entertainment Tonight a few years ago between Diablo Cody, sorry, and Megan Fox. They were kind of talking about how this was sort of also like there's a very similar aspect to how she felt about her career in Hollywood. How Megan Fox thought that it was this sort of like male gazy sort of like thing where they wanted to control everything about like who she was, what she wanted. They wanted her to be as far as an actress in Hollywood, and and it goes into the marketing, right? They marketed this film to men. At the end of the day, it kind of bit them in the ass the way it marketed, as we all talk about or are going to talk about right now. Is Siskel and Ebert, when they did their review of that, one of them felt it was a good movie, but then he also still fell for the trap of like the whole male and gazy sort of thing. Kind of gave it a lower score, but then obviously now we look back on it and it's like this like really amazingly well done cult classic of telling about of feminism.
No, I agree. This movie grossed only 31.6 million worldwide on a budget of 16 million, so it was a financial flop. And I dare say the marketing had something to do with that. Chris, you had something?
Yeah, well, first off, it made me really sad to see that trailer because of how much I miss that nostalgic trailer voice of like,
oh, yeah,
coming to you this summer. Like, there's just something I really like find endearing about that type of trailer. Like, regardless of like how they did, like the accuracy of that trailer and all that. I just really like that.
I don't know if that was Don LaFontaine in this trailer, but Don LaFontaine is like a famous trailer voice. Yeah. He's deceased now, but I mean, any movie early 2000s would have had his voice. There's also like 4 other dudes that are still going, but
I want Arnold voicing trailers these days.
I would actually love that. I would love to hear Arnold voicing trailers. I lost my train of thought there for a second. Sorry. Jessica, you had something?
Yeah, also just on the note of marketing again, it is so silly that they decided to market this to men because it's a female-led horror film that's directed by a female, written by a female, and has 2 females, a villain female and a protagonist female. Like, that's so rare in horror movies, so I don't understand why they wouldn't like get to that audience, why they wouldn't want to market it to women, because it's for the girls. Like, it's mostly for the girls.
I agree. And I love the line in the trailer and in the movie where she's like, I'm not killing people, I'm killing boys. Like, that's there's so many good, witty lines throughout this whole movie. I don't think the line that she says in the trailer where she's like, you can barely finish gym class, that wasn't in the movie, was it? I don't remember that in the movie.
No, I think that's just like in the extended cut.
Yeah, it was like an unrated director's cut that came
is
out.
it? Okay.
Oh, there is?
I can't believe they actually wanted Megan Fox to stream on a adult site. That's wow.
I know.
Not shocking though. I guess when you have an all-male marketing team, I guess that's like probably the least shocking thing.
They were doing it for themselves. They were trying to see how far they could get. Like,
yeah.
And we all know now how trash it was. Like after like the Harvey Weinstein shit went down.
That certainly did not help.
I read something recently that like apparently people are still trying to get her to, like, recently I read something that they're trying to get her to go on OnlyFans. But then she was like, no, never. I don't think I will. I just can't do it.
That's always the move, right? And the thing is, like, even that's saturated at this point. I think I read some statistic somewhere that said that the average OnlyFans person only earns like less than a few $100 a month or something like that. I don't know.
Oh no.
Don't ask me where I read that statistic, but I read it.
I got them on here. So they're on the chat as well.
Oh, yeah. Jessica, this is a secret chat that Arnold has, by the way. I don't think we talked about this last time. He has a secret chat. They'll be chatting. No, thank you for that. But I wanted to talk about the writing, because the writing is really strong. You know, Diablo Cody wrote Juno, which is a great movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Juno. Anybody? I've seen it. And that was with Elliot Page. It was Ellen Page at the time. Good movie. She I feel like she's kind of gotten done dirty a little bit by Hollywood in a sense, like, especially after the way this movie was marketed. And that's why I didn't watch it, because at the time, this would have been 2009, I was like, oh, this just looks like male gazy schlock. Like, I'm not going to watch that movie. And it turned out to be more than that. Alex?
If you think about it, the reason why it failed is because It was kind of one of those things where at the time Hollywood was throwing money. They're just throwing money at anything that they thought was successful, right? Diablo Cody having her Juno being her first film, like be so overly successful, and then they're like, oh, okay, let's see if I could throw more money at this and like just give her stuff instead of like letting her continue on a path of just like, hey, let's just keep on doing like cool indie films that you did with like Juno, and let's like how they kind of do now. You look at like people like Sean Baker, they kind of like still kind of prove themselves along the way. I mean, that's the unfortunate side of like what the like the 2000s era of film. Like
I agree.
There was so much money being thrown around.
You know what they say about Hollywood? It's either feast or famine. You know, like clearly that was during a feast time. Now we're in a famine time. There's not even the same landscape anymore. It's crazy. Chris, you had something?
Yeah, I just want to like kind of touch on not only how it was marketed in the sense of why it caused it to do so poorly at the beginning, but like the lasting effects of that marketing. Because again, coming off Transformers, Megan Fox has obviously become an icon of sorts.
Right.
And they really leaned into it because, again, small guy brain, they're like, just want to market it to. I think at one point they're like had a test group of like 12 to 14-year-old boys.
Right.
And wanted like their feedback on it. And
yeah, that's funny.
And like just to like touch on how that sticks with you, like in my opinion, I know Amanda was great in this movie, but Megan Fox killed it in this movie. She was my favorite part. Like she was
I agree.
Yeah,
I know she
sure
wasn't
did.
the protagonist, but dear God, her acting chops are actually legitimately good.
I was not expecting that. I really only seen her in the Transformers movies. So I was not expecting the level of like she's so good with comedy. Like she knows how to be dark and funny at the same time. It was great. Jessica?
Yeah, I think also with the marketing, it also messed it up for a while with word of mouth because people who initially went to go see it almost felt like they were bamboozled, like they saw a different movie than what they expected to go and seeing, and they weren't happy about that. And so that also had a ripple effect with people being like, yeah, don't go see it. This weird movie, like, I don't understand. And also this was like mentioned before, Diablo Cody's follow-up to Juno. But she had actually written this before she wrote Juno. So this was her being like, this is what I want to do next. Like, this is my next thing. And I think people also didn't like the abrupt change from this sort of like dramedy, quirky world that is Juno to this like horror comedy vibe. Like I think it was just too much of a change for people, and then that affected like what Diablo Cody could do in the future because they sort of just wanted her to copy and paste Juno again.
That's so interesting because I thought that was the best turn because I didn't know where this movie was going. I didn't know that she would turn into some kind of demonic succubus or whatever. I had no idea where this movie was going. So when that scene where she comes back to Amanda to Needy's house and she's going through the fridge and then you see all the blood on her face, I was like, whoa. And then the turn happened, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So we're going there now, and I was like, "I'm here for it." So that's so fascinating that people didn't like. I don't know. I didn't find it abrupt at all. I guess is what I'm getting at. But yeah, that's an interesting point, Alex.
This movie is so deep, and there's so much to get into that I think it deserves to talk discussion about. Like this is a feminist film, and for it to be marketed to men only, I'm sure that really rubbed the director and Diablo Cody the wrong way, including like Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried. Like to touch on like one of Jessica's comments earlier in the show, she said that like Megan Fox was a villain, and to be quite honest, she wasn't. The guys who turned her into that were the villains. She was just a product of what happened to her. She was assaulted. It was like a very egregious, misogynistic, very horrendous, traumatic assault where she ends up getting killed. And she wasn't a virgin, so she did not become the sacrifice that those guys thought she would be. They still got what they wanted, but when you make deals with the devil doesn't care about raising up humans. He wants what he wants. You're gonna lose in the end. That's the problem with like you see a lot of things like there's like Faust, the idle hands even.
I never thought we'd have a Faust reference on this show ever.
I mean, That's like one of the earlier like sort of
Arnold's going to bring in Mephistopheles, right, Arnold?
What is Faust? What is Mephistopheles?
It's one of like
Well,
the earliest stories of like a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Oh.
Faust was like an author.
Think about it, like even like that Crossroads,
Back in
that movie Crossroads, where like the guy who played like he wants to become a really amazing blues player, but so he makes a deal with the devil at the crossroads, and he becomes this amazing like.
Arnold, think of Faust as like the 16th century version of Stephen King. Just imagine Stephen King, but like way back in the day. And Mephistopheles was like a story of his.
Sorry, I gotta shout out my feminist king for bringing up that's true. It was the men that were the real villains. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah. That's what we do on this show, right? Justin, you had something?
Just two things.
No, you only get one. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm getting fucking two. I paid for two. I'm getting fucking two. Anyway.
Yeah, he paid on Arnold's OnlyFans to get two. So.
That's only between
bonus
me and Arnold.
Content.
First thing, it's an interesting theme that we've covered a movie about an incubus, and now we're covering a movie about a succubus. That's the first thing.
Think about that.
Second thing, because I'm referring to Shelby Oaks episode, but second thing, the moment Chris Pratt came on screen,
God.
we were just like, and I'm so glad he died. I
he
was
really
so
fell
happy.
from grace,
I was like,
didn't
fuck
he?
that guy, dude. Yeah.
He was such a darling in like the early 2010s, and then he just fell from grace because he joined an anti-LGBT church and all that. Well, that was the story, right?
He saw that boot and wanted to lick it.
What a weird little guy, Chris Pratt. Donnie, you had something?
Yeah, Alex kind of mentioned it a little bit, but the whole dynamic between the two women in the film, it kind of tells the story of Diablo Cody, right? It's about her like her dark side of her life, because she was previously a stripper, and then that whole assault thing was supposed to represent or a metaphor for sexual assault. So that was the dark side of it. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
But she was also raised in an apostolistic Christian home too, so which is very interesting.
You know,
crazy.
You know
what
what the
kind
best?
of pasta?
Yeah, a copy pasta Christian home.
You know what the best way to raise an atheist? Send him to Catholic school. And Anthony Girardi will attest to that, by the way, because he went to Catholic school. So just saying. Jessica, you had something.
I also went to Catholic school, so I totally feel that. Feel that agnostic girly over here. I also my favorite part about the Chris Pratt cameo is that Megan Fox, Jennifer, turns him away for Adam Brody, and I love that. Because, Chris Pratt sucks, and I love Adam Brody. So I love he's hitting on her, and she goes, whatever, Chris Pratt, I'm here for Adam Brody.
Yeah. She really is so funny in this movie. I wrote down a bunch of notes because I just couldn't help but write down all the great dialogue. One line was, I'm not a backdoor virgin. Was that Jennifer that said that, or was that Needy? That was Jennifer, right? Saying
I'm not even a backdoor virgin. I sat on a bag of peas the whole day, and the next day I was like, what?
Yeah, I liked Hello Titty. That was great. That was a funny line. She just stares at the fire. Who was it? Oh yeah, you know what was kind of jarring for me? That scene in the bar in the beginning, and I was just like, wow, people are just like watching, or Needy is watching this fire slowly like engulf the building, and she's just staring at it, and everyone's just like doing their thing. She's not like, hey guys, fire, something. And I'm like, these people don't see the flames like engulfing the entire fucking thing. Okay.
One of the things that did also kind of confound me was I wasn't sure on how she got kind of like compelled to go with that.
Jennifer?
I know that they did like have her drink that drink, but how did she get so like mesmerized?
The 9/11 themed drink?
No. She didn't even drink those. You have to remember, she didn't. Like when they escaped out of the bar, Adam Brody gives her a drink, and it's obviously roofied, right?
Oh,
but I don't know, because remember, she was just like mesmerized and locked into that. Even when the fire was going on, I was wondering, and I was like, is it the song? Is it like something that's like a prayer that was like trying to like magically like seduce her to go with them? And she just was locked in this way that like, that's the one thing that kind of almost threw me off the whole, like, I don't know if I like this film, but then I got into the rest of it. I really like what the movie.
They needed some kind of mechanism to get her under their spell or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know what that mechanism was.
It's a band they're delving into already like ritualistic satanic practices because their van is filled with satanic paraphernalia.
That's a good point.
But I interpreted it as like a siren's song almost.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's kind of how succubus and incubus works. They lure their prey in, and they probably weren't like outright like an incubus or anything like that, but they were just kind of like the vessel for it, more or less.
Right.
So, which is why that whole scene in the fire, everybody just felt like they weren't reacting properly.
Okay.
They weren't.
Like that headcanon. Yeah.
Because Jennifer was obviously stuck in it. She was already like halfway there, foot in the van already. While Needy was like, she was dazed in a way, but still had her senses, but was more worried about like getting her friend and things
she already
like that.
didn't like the guy because she overheard them talking. That makes sense.
That's
that
also true. Jess?
That was my exact interpretation too, was that there was something already afoot occult-wise with this band. Like, I don't think the sacrifice of Jennifer was like their first foray into Satanism. So I kind of took it as like their music maybe already sort of had a spell of some kind under people. And also Jennifer was a fan of theirs before seeing them live. So maybe that's why she was like so much more affected than everyone else at the bar, because she was already sort of like under that spell, so to speak. And we see that more too, like as they blow up, like more people hear them, like more people are just obsessed with them.
Yeah, it makes sense because like I remember when they were like they had that vigil, that kind of like vigil, and they were like singing the song, and it became like the anthem of the school for these kids who have passed away in the fire and everything. That makes
Which, by the way,
sense.
that song slaps. I really like that song. Like, it's been stuck in my head all day, and I'm just like, I'm still here. I really like it.
We'll have to add that to the soundtrack of this show at some point.
Speaking on the soundtrack, I thought the soundtrack was very impressive. I've seen this movie once before, and this was back when it was new. I think I rented it. I didn't remember the soundtrack being such a cool rock soundtrack. I had such a different perspective of this movie in the past, and revisiting it, I think did this movie justice for sure. Because my original opinion of the movie, and it's kind of like what you all talked about earlier on, was this movie was just kind of dumb. And I think I had an immature kind of perspective back in the day, but seeing it now with all the movies I've seen and horror movies, I've definitely have a better appreciation for this film, and quite frankly, I really enjoyed everything about it.
Yeah. I like how after the fire, the guy from the band comes up to Needy and Jennifer, and he's like, "I've been looking for you everywhere." And I wrote down like, all of 30 seconds since the fire started, you've been looking for them. Okay.
Yeah, just climbed out, and he already has a jacket on, a drink ready.
Yeah. Here, come into my totally not sketchy van. Alex?
I know like the bands on that soundtrack were like pretty big, and I kind of feel like that might even be a double-edged sword for that film as well. Like, I think that at the time of like that era of soundtracks being more popular than films that were coming out at the time, if you like recall, there were times where like people would make like movies would actually make their money back because of like it had these like songs. Like, take for instance the Joel Schumacher Batman films. Those films, both of those, their soundtracks did like
Kiss from a Rose, man.
Yeah, Kiss
Love
from a
that
Rose.
song.
But then they had like U2, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, whatever that song is, and then like Smashing Pumpkins was on like one of the soundtracks, and then R. Kelly was on one of the soundtracks. And
Donnie, you had something.
The movie's named after a song from the band Hole, Courtney Love's band, Jennifer's Body, but they're not on the soundtrack, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But they named it after that, or she named it after that.
Was that band supposed to be, because this is the early 2000s, well, this is the latter end of the early 2000s, were they supposed to be an emo band, a scene kids? Was that the vibe I was getting with the eyeliner?
Scene kid, emo, sort of.
Okay, am I using that interchangeably correctly, emo and scene kid, or were those two different subcultures back then. I don't even remember, if I'm being honest.
They were two different.
Two different.
Two different.
But they were
things.
kind of like adjacent.
There's overlap.
There was an
Yeah.
overlap. There was a Venn
Yeah.
diagram overlap, but like I think
Yeah.
I would say the band was more emo than scene.
Yeah. Would you
I
say
think
emo
it-
music is like the disco of millennials? Like, is that the genre of music we're gonna look back on and be like, oh, look, listen, we don't know what we were thinking back then.
No,
Give
the
us-
disco
give us-
music is the stomp clap. Like
Stomp-
that genre. That's the emo.
Bro.
That's the disco.
Stomp clap.
Emo
It kind of depends
will
where
never
you're from
die.
too.
So
We'll
good.
never die.
I still listen to it.
Well, there you go.
No, you listen to Elmo, not emo.
No, I listen to Screamo.
Jessica.
On the band topic, I love that Adam Brody is our main villain here. I used
Yeah.
to love the OC. That was one of my favorite shows back then. And
Oh yeah.
yes, and he's
California,
Seth Cohen from the OC, and I just love that, like, as our villain, he's not monstrous, he's not menacing, like you were saying, like when he's like outside the bar just being like, I've been looking for you everywhere, come on to my van. Like, it's very just like kind of nonchalant, and I really liked that he was just this like kind of douchebaggy guy, but he's also just a dude. Like, he's not anything like special or over the top. He's just like this grimy guy. And I really, really liked that casting a lot.
On the topic of actors, I just wanted to mention that the original two actors that was supposed to be in this movie was Blake Lively and Emma Stone.
Oh wow. Emma Stone,
Yeah.
great. And Blake Lively, no.
Blake
Thank you.
Lively had a conflict. She was doing Gossip Girl at the time, so she wasn't able. She turned it down.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Chris.
Yeah, I just want to tie into the big bad, the villain. As far as like having an unassuming villain was really smart, and I think it plays into how smart this movie really is and the script. And kind of tying in another guy, like the damsel, right? So we have whatchamacallit, Chip, so the boyfriend of Needy in this.
Justice for Chip, by the way. Poor
And
Chip.
he's such a great actor, and I think
I
he
disagree.
does such a good job in this, being like the
Ernest?
boyfriend or like the girlfriend, like in a traditional
Yeah.
sense of like what his role is in this movie. And it was really just really smart to the point where at the end, spoiler, it's actually like an emotional moment where you're like actually invested in this guy.
Right.
And he like blows off that Megan Fox's character is evil. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just really smart. I really liked him.
Yeah, she's not high school evil. She's evil, which was, I think, that was a great callback to Amanda Seyfried's role in Mean Girls, wasn't it? Like, I love that she wrote that in there. That immediately made me think of Mean Girls, and she was totally playing against type in this one. Alex,
Johnny Simmons, a year later, he gets a role in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World as young Neil.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And then I will say that as much as I like Adam Brody in this role, he nails it. It also does feel very stunt casty because he's kind of known as this indie rock actor kid at the time, especially during the OC. He was like the one that was championing a lot of the music that they would put on the show. He would almost like be part of the music selection. So like he kind of had his foot in the indie music world. I think he also played music as well. Don't quote me on that, but it feels like he loves music so much that like when you even watch him acting on stage as the lead singer, he's got the mannerisms down for like that era of a lead singer. Like the way he's like flailing, the way he's flailing his body around, the way he's kind of like just his mannerisms, the way he looks at and it's almost like
even the voice.
Watching a music video.
Straight out of Central Casting for that demographic. Justin?
No, I just want to go back and I want to, because I agree with you, Chris, but I want to disagree with you with one point. I don't think Chip is all that. I think Chip was, the guy that was like the loving, caring boyfriend in the beginning, but he still fell victim to being just like every guy anyway. I don't know, maybe it was like a seduction thing or whatever that he couldn't help. It seemed like he could help it. It seemed like he did have a choice. And when he was like kissing Jennifer and by the tree and everything, and she was like luring him and all that, I feel like he was still competent enough to choose to say, hey, no. I mean, he did it later. I commend him for that, I guess. But he still went through with it, and he still like got rid of the trust of his girlfriend, whether she knew about it or not. And I know that she was technically trying to save him and everything, but like it was only like what, a night where they were just kind of like not seeing each other, and he took it as we're breaking up. I'm like, damn, dude. I'm like, he just ended up becoming like every other guy too. So did Chip deserve his death? Yeah, absolutely. Did he have a redeeming factor to his character? No, not really. He pretty much wasted his entire time.
I'm on Team Chip.
The heart is a sensitive being, and she made a very compelling case saying like, hey, your girl wasn't a virgin. Like,
here's the thing though, he was dismissive of Needy when she was telling him the things. And this is the thing, when you talk to like any sexual assault victim, they will say a lot of the people that they talk to at first, if they were brave enough to like talk about it, they were oftentimes disbelieved or dismissed, a lot of these victims. And so that he was playing the typical like dismissive, which, okay, that makes a lot of sense in that like that sort of role, but he was not sensitive. He was like, at the end he became sensitive because like, oh, he died, but then he heard her voice and they're like, I should have believed you, but it's too late.
Jessica?
I go back and forth on Chip because I as a character, I don't think he like brings a ton to the table, and I don't think he's like the most riveting character, especially with this movie. And when you compare like how compelling sort of the other male actors are to watch in this that like are also victims, so to speak, I don't know, but I also kind of think that's sort of the point, is like we're not supposed to be like overly obsessed with him necessarily because he is playing a damsel role. And there's so many times in so many movies when the damsel is just simply that, like just simply there sort of. And so I don't know. I do get what you're saying though, where like, yeah, he could have been better, definitely. But in this world compared to like the Adam Brody character, I guess he wasn't like that bad. But yeah, he really very quickly gave into Jennifer very quickly. And I don't love that quality about him.
That's a good point. You know who else wasn't a supportive boyfriend in movies? Adrian Grenier's character in Devil Wears Prada. I'm like, what's up with this guy? Like, your girl's trying to break it into the fashion business, bro. Like, let her cook. Arnold, you had something.
I was trying. The chat was saying, they brought up a point. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but regarding Chip. I was kind of hesitant to read it, but I guess I will. I don't know.
You have to now.
Do you guys remember? It was towards the beginning, when they're Needy and Megan Fox. They're about to go to the bar. They're like, she's downstairs at the house, and then she said, Megan Fox says, "Eat my ass, Chip," and that they're supposedly, I don't know, I gotta rewatch it again. That Chip, he paused. Like, people are in the chat, they're saying that there was a little bit of like foresight that maybe
it was a pregnant pause
that he actually was thinking about it, like doing that. This chat is like,
Arnold, I'm gonna say,
you know,
as funny as that is, you have a good point.
Yeah, he actually, in fairness, he did have a pregnant pause.
Now they're also saying that she should be careful saying that because there could have been a mob of people who were obeying her orders.
Right, yeah. And you can only serve so much, right, Arnold?
Yeah.
No, that is an interesting point that your private side chat brings up. So good on them for.
It's helping me to digest and kind of process through, because we're talking about Chip and there was maybe a little bit of hints at the beginning.
Arnold's side chat is saying the quiet parts out loud. So
yeah, exactly. Arnold's side chat is going to have a cabinet position anytime soon now. I can feel it. Let me ask you guys this. So let's talk about J.K. Simmons' character, Mr. Claw, I called him. What was the point of his character? Because I feel like he didn't really do much outside of the 2 scenes he was in.
His whole purpose was to show off that wig. Damn, man. Every time it was on, I saw him But I saw that hair first, and I was like, "What is that attached to?" And I'm like, "Wait, why is it attached to a really good actor in this movie?"
Yeah, I thought Perms died in the 90s. You know?
I had to second take his character for a second. I was like, is that J.K. Simmons? And I was like, yeah, it is. He just has like this really weird like Golden Girls wig on.
There's a cat attached to his head. What's going on?
Yeah, Jess.
I mean, he also was in Juno. He played Juno's dad.
That's true.
So I wonder if it was more so just like a, hey, we love working together. Come on into this movie. Sure. Like kind of thing. Because, yeah, he's just sort of there, but I'm not mad he's there.
Exactly. It was perfect. The amount that he was in it was just enough.
I think
agree.
he was kind of like one of those naive characters that they kind of put in. Kind of like the scene whenever he's walking and he's like, yeah, let it out, kids, let it out.
Yeah.
Thinking that like they're all out in the woods screaming because their friends died or anything. When in reality, you know, he's getting murdered.
I thought they were going to go that teacher tries to seduce student route, and it ended up being the jock character, Jonas, that ate it first. And I wrote down in my notes that scene where they go into the forest right before she kills Jonas. All the animals come out, and I wrote down like evil reverse Snow White, or why are these animals coming out to watch her fucking take out this dude? And then they cut to J.K. Simmons' character, and he like hears something. He's like, And I'm like, okay. And that was pretty much it for his character. Donnie?
I was just wondering, I was like, why did he have one hand? Like, I thought they were going to talk about
I don't know. I your guess is
I thought he was like a victim at some point that they were going to touch on later down the storyline, but
He went into wardrobe and he saw the claw sitting there. He's like, I'm going to wear this in the movie, guys, okay? Nobody's going to say anything.
For comedic effect.
Exactly.
I could see that. I could see J.K. Simmons being like, I'm going to wear that claw. And then he just like fucking, all right.
Yeah, an interesting like side point to like that's kind of similar to that. So in Pulp Fiction, Samuel L. Jackson, in the original like sort of like photos of them like doing the promotional stuff, they shot all those photos before they filmed the movie, and he wasn't wearing that the
Jerry curl,
Jerry curl wig.
Yeah.
But then he saw the wig, and he's like, I want to wear this in the movie, and so that's how I got it.
I think that Jerry curl really like adds to his character. I don't know why. Like visually, like it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think
like,
that claw adds to J.K. Simmons' character a lot too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Justin.
Going back to the animals in the woods, I think that's more of like a ritualistic type of thing. You know how it's like when you see like a group of animals like doing some like weird stuff, it's usually a sign of like demonic sessions going about.
That's kind of a horror trope. You see that like in some horror movies where like the animals start acting strange and it's like a sign of things to come. Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to like touch on like this movie legitimately is so freaking hilarious.
It really is.
The quantity of jokes in this is like just flat out punchlines or like throwaway lines is great, but overall like the tongue-in-cheekness of the whole movie of like not breaking the fourth wall, but essentially acknowledging that there's a fourth wall there the entire time.
Right.
Like at the whole time I felt like we're in on the joke but we're just not going to talk about it. Just sit back and enjoy. Like
that is a great point.
It was I couldn't stop smiling at a horror movie because it was just so funny.
I love that. I 100% agree. Donnie.
I just wanted to mention this movie was heavily influenced by The Lost Boys and Ginger Snaps. And in Ginger Snaps, you see that too. Ginger Snaps is, it's like a werewolf or something. I can't remember. It's an older movie.
Is that a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie. Yeah, so
I've never seen it.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty good. It's one of those. It's very similar to you'll see a lot of parallels with that movie in this one.
Nice. Jess.
I'm just going to the comedy elements of this horror. I think that's so hard to do. And you're right. It's like they acknowledge that there's a fourth wall there, but they don't really at the same time. And it really reminds me of Scream in that way, in that they're able to sort of blend this, like, you're in on this too, and this world is really weird, but you're like along for the ride. Also, I think my favorite throwaway line in this movie might be when Cullen asks Jennifer out. He asks her to go see Rocky Horror, and she goes, I don't really like boxing movies.
I forgot about that one. That one is good. Now that we're talking about the comedy aspect, my complaint is I can have Amy Sedaris in this and not have her do one funny thing in this whole movie. She had like one or two scenes and that was it. But was it Chip's little sister? What did she say? Penis cheese? She said he had penis cheese. And I was like, holy shit. Kids will humble your ass real quick. I also wrote down Amanda Seyfried's boyfriend has that early 2000s Justin Bieber haircut that was like all the rage back then. That sort of like, that flowy, like covering your eyebrows.
He looked like he was ripped off a Disney Channel studio.
Yeah,
with that hairdo. Yeah, I'm just I was like, that hair's a choice, but okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the Hannah Montana throwaway line was also like such a like dated. Towards the end, it was Jennifer talking to Needy, and Needy delivers like some corny line, and so in retort, Jennifer's like, "Whatever, Hannah Montana." Like it was just such a like stupid, silly, funny line to just like include in this movie.
Yeah. Was it like in the dirty pool part? I remember that. Yeah,
even that whole scene, which was like super dark, was funny. Alex,
Amy Sedaris's character, while she didn't really have a lot of comedy in it, or even have a lot of scenes in it, she did like release a few kind of things. Actually, things that I would want to like talk about, like as a point of view that I kind of after doing some research, I thought was like very, very interesting. That how like this film delves into more of like this sort of like Passion of Christ narrative. It's very layered too. So there's like the outer layer that we're kind of like discussing, right? It's like right now it's like the modern day high school sort of like drama, sort of rebel without a cause sort of thing, Mean Girls thing. But then it goes into like these like different layers. She like talks about people were trying to nail you to a tree, and I wouldn't do it because I'm a toughest forward mama. And like he says JC, and if you think about it, like too, Jennifer check JC, Jesus Christ JC. That's like part of like the whole like, so like they've talked about like there's like the modern high school narrative, and then the middle layer there's like the deal with the devil, the medieval thing, right? But then there's the ancient, like the even deeper level of the Christian narrative, basically following the like Passion of the Christ sort of narrative. There's even a scene where in the fire you see Jennifer, she's mesmerized by this band, and she's like just kind of like this, and then Needy is trying to pull her out of there, and you see her head kind of like tilted, like looking at her, and it kind of mirrors this Last Supper painting by Peter Paul Rubens painting. It's the Last Supper, where it's like almost like the same sort of position.
There's nothing creepier to me than religious Judeo-Christian imagery, I think. Jess, I think you had your hand raised.
I did, but then I forgot what I was going to say, so I lowered it.
I feel you.
It's okay.
But
all the time.
But those are like, that's a really, really interesting little Easter eggs to religiosity in there, which makes sense because like, I mean, we are talking about like demonic possession, and at the end of the day, both girls in a way like are sort of also reflective of like the Madonna and whore complex, right? With Needy being our like Virgin Mary, so to speak, and Jennifer being like our whore, but at the end of the day, they are sort of these more pure beings than the band. They're not the ones dabbling in Satanism, right? So like, it's interesting to have these sort of little things that reflect the fact that like they're still like pure, so to speak, like they are in the light of the against the evil. So all those things are really interesting to hear.
Definitely. And I think this movie did a better job of that than whatever the heck Shelby House is trying to do, right? Like with that sort of imagery. Chris?
Yeah, well, to talk about our two main characters, I wanted to see what the group thought about this. Definitely has a more female-centric storyline, written, directed, and all that kind of jazz. What did you guys think about like the scene between both of them having that kiss at that evening? Because it's like that felt like such a Fox Studios thing of like, okay, you guys have to have them kiss, or like
that was like the mandated scene. I think that was like the scene where the studio's like, okay, fine, you want to do a story about these themes, blah blah blah, but can we have them kiss at some point? I think that's what that scene was,
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw it to everyone because I personally like thought that was kind of like, again, this was such a smartly written movie, and to have that scene in there, it kind of felt like we're just gonna throw a bone to an audience. Like if you came here expecting this, here's like your reward for sitting through this long, like this part of the movie.
And did you notice they had it in they teased that scene in the trailer?
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
That
so I didn't know if that was directing, writing, it was going to be there regardless, or if they like really played that up to hopefully garner some more like talking points and
Yeah,
marketing
Alex, what
or
do you
whatever.
think?
No, that was actually part of the movie. It was never like something that the studios wanted to see. Because here's the thing, they were always connected in a way, and there was always some sort of attraction between the two of them. Especially because if you think about it now, like they would always have this connection. Because if you remember, like she like in the soundbox, she had a tack stuck into her hand, right? Which is supposed to symbolize the stigmata. And so when she pulls the tack out and then Needy kisses it or like, sucks the blood, she's taking part in the body of Christ. And so from that point on, they had a connection forward. That's why you always see like she's able to like I could tell that she's like, that's weird that she, whatever his name was, that's so weird that you guys have that weird connection if you know that that's why when they would feel things like when they were having sex, she knew like what was going on. And then also when she was going to kill Chip, she's like felt on her lips. She's like, that's when she goes and like tries to find him. And then at the end, if you notice, right before she kills Jennifer, she breaks that bond by like ripping off the necklace. And then that's when Jennifer realizes that's when their bond is gone. And that's when she just kind of lets go and then like almost lets Needy kill her to like almost like free her from this sort of demonic possession. That whole kissing scene is never meant to be just for the marketing.
It always goes deeper.
I didn't put that together, and I just had a moment of realization. The stigmata, that's actually, now that I look back and think about it after you said all that, I'm actually kind of blown away by that detail because I didn't really catch on to that right away.
I had to watch the movie again after watching that video. This movie goes way deeper. And I don't know if Diablo Cody was actually trying to do this or people are just kind of like, again, like people like making up their own connections.
I really agree with that point too, that like the scene between them, I always sort of interpreted it as like they're like in a trance almost, like they're not really like necessarily making the active choice to do that. It's just sort of happening. And like when Needy breaks up and is like, whoa, what the hell is this? I think you're right. It's like that they have a really, really deep connection between the two of them. And it's sort of, they are like just going all in on this connection. And it's not necessarily like, I think you're hot. I think you're hot too. Like, but the marketing took that moment and made it into that sort of like fitting their sort of narrative. But like, I always sort of took it as like this possession moment has like almost made them even deeper connected, whether that's just like the bond of two really good friends. I don't know. And I also wanted to ask you guys, like, you brought this up already about the necklace, when she rips the necklace off and that like makes her weaker. Like I've thought about that a lot and I don't know how to interpret that exactly. Like how, like I like it. Like I think it's a really interesting choice. I think it's really cool. But like I don't really understand like what that necklace and ripping it off like that is supposed to necessarily represent. Like, and where that
I think it's kind of like similar to the prayer beads, maybe. Like what do they call those?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like, like when you pass down, like
beads.
the rosary beads. Like I think it's like there's like religious significance to like people like passing them down to family members or even like being gifted them.
Interesting. There's also, I can't remember the name of it. At least in my Catholic upbringing, there was like these charms that like, gosh, I can't remember. It was like pictures of a saint on like your front and your back. Like I can't. And I think that also if you like ripped those off, something about that too. So yeah, there's probably some sort of like religious symbolism, and it also severs like their deep bond almost. But yeah, all this religious stuff is so interesting to me. I do think she probably did it on purpose with like how her upbringing is.
There's a lot of is it like is superstition founded in religion, or is it the other way around? I feel like it's kind of both, right? Because I also grew up Catholic, and I feel like there was a lot of superstition, especially in the Catholic religion. Like I remember one time we were in Mexico with my dad and my uncles, and we went to some church, and the priest was doing the water thing, you know. My dad turns to me, he's like, "See, we're gonna be good now. Nothing's gonna happen to us because we got water."
I think the whole superstition thing though is like connected to like almost mockery or even like deviation from the actual stories. Like the idea of the succubus is stems from a story that was written after, like, it was supposedly part of the Bible, but the narrative, like, the Bible had already been written and all that sort of stuff, and then hundreds of years later they created the story called of Lilith, and Lilith was like supposedly the first woman made from the dirt of the ground. So she was rejected by it, and she became evil, and like she was supposedly like the first succubus.
Justin, and then we'll go to Donnie.
The superstitions I grew up with in the Christian household is, if you spilled salt on the table, then you do a line.
What?
If
a literal,
you,
like...
I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
What?
Yeah, you do a line. Like,
I've heard
throwing
a
salt
line
of salt. Well, salt, yeah.
That's how I became addicted to cocaine. I kept spilling salt everywhere. It was so bad.
Wow. Donnie?
Yeah, I was just gonna like that whole thing, that whole scene. My interpretation of it was that they're kind of like one person. They're like opposites, right? But that's kind of the breaking of them, like their separation, kind of. And so by breaking that off, it was like she lost a part of herself, sort of thing. And then the whole sex scene, or the whole kissing scene, that went through numerous reiterations, and there was supposed to be a full-blown sex scene between them two.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but then Diablo Cody thought that the chemistry with just a kiss was enough for the film, and so they went with that one.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, it gives you... clock it. Chris, let's just go to you next before I get too deep.
Clock it.
Circle back to Chris.
Well, the magic of this movie is, yes, there's so many different layers to this. The layer of, like, speaking to the tropes of horror film. There's speaking to the religious aspects that they really smartly tied into so many aspects of this movie. There's the commentary on feminism. There's so many different layers to it, which is why I think it's so grounded in every single scene that it has. It builds upon, and whatever the audience member wants to get from it, it's there. Like, they can follow the religious storyline. They can just follow a good writing. They can follow the feminist part. And I think bringing it back to like what it signified for breaking that necklace, you see throughout the whole movie that they sort of have this like push, pull, love you, hate you sort of relationship where they're like, boo, you whore type of like attitude. But like they always come back to like, oh, we just do it because we love each other so much, like as true friends. And like deeply bonded. And I think part of that as well, when she rips her necklace off, was like, oh shit, you're like actually pissed off at me. Like, we're not gonna, this is the final straw. So like, yes, there's the religious stuff. There's like so many symbolic moments in this movie that it's just such a smart movie. It's like really unfortunate how good it is.
Definitely. Jess?
I just want to take a second to give you guys your flowers, because this has been such an awesome conversation about this movie. I think this may be like the best conversation I've had about it. And like the fact that, like, no offense to anyone here, you guys all seem lovely. You all have seemed lovely last week when I was on. But like watching this movie, I was a little like, what the hell is this going to be like talking about this with a bunch of dudes? Because this is a weird movie to talk about when you're the only woman around. So thank you guys for like, I don't know, just having a really smart and like nuanced, awesome conversation, just appreciating the art for being the art. And honestly, after having this conversation, I love this movie even more, which I didn't think was possible. So just, I don't know, thank you guys. This has been really awesome.
You understand now why we want a lady on this show.
Yeah. I think if you had joined us 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, doing podcasts, we would be different people, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I don't need to know those guys.
I'm glad you caught us now.
I think Adrian said it best. We're liberal Nazis. No, joking.
Hey, we're liberal skinheads. That's a reference to an old episode, by the way. Well, no, thank you for that. I mean, that's why I wanted to have Amber tonight on too, because I feel like she also would have brought a certain balance. You know what I mean? But well, as you can see, she hops in and out. But we'll get her on at the same time someday. And yeah, Donnie, I think you had something.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about it already. You know, at its core, this is like a feminist horror film, right? And like it really talks about like female empowerment and stuff. I just think it came out at the wrong time, because when we see its resurgence and where it gained traction was during the Me Too movement in 2018. So it's just one of those movies that it just didn't come out the right time. You know, I'm glad it was revisited and people, you know, looked deeper into the meaning behind it, and now we can appreciate it for what it was.
Alex?
Yeah, just to touch back on the whole like idea of like feminism and in this film, but I wanted to share this video talking about feminism. I want to try doing a share.
I didn't know you had those permissions.
Let me see.
I will have to change that. No, I'm just kidding.
So this is
look at that.
This is a video.
Let's see it.
Talking about the film. This is like the video that I got a lot of things from, and she's talking about like feminism and the correlation to how it's more than likely an outgrowth of like Christianity.
I have a
hit me with it.
Unusual view of the relationship between Christianity and feminism. In general, modern feminists, set themselves up in opposition to Christianity, particularly on the issue of abortion, the Handmaid's Tale kind of neo-Puritan outfit being the uniform now of American feminists and so on. I am of the view, though, that actually feminism is an outgrowth of Christianity, and that the fundamental idea in Christianity, which is so different from other religious traditions, that weakness is strength, that the first shall be last, that there is something valuable about being small and vulnerable rather than something despicable about it. I think that feminism completely relies on that idea, which is by no means shared by all cultures and certainly wasn't shared by the ancient Roman culture from which Christianity sprung. And so if you're operating in, say, an ancient Roman culture, which doesn't see women as inherently vulnerable, which actually sees female vulnerability as something to be despised, potentially, and which sees prostituted slave women as entirely available for male sexual consumption, that cannot really conceptualize the idea of a slave woman being able to be sexually violated. You know, it's just not kind of within the moral system. It's not understandable. Into that comes the Christian idea of sexual equality, at least at the spiritual level, and the idea, therefore, that actually even a woman who doesn't have male kin available to defend her against sexual violation, which of course a slave doesn't, she is nevertheless worthy of that protection. It kind of socializes is maybe the wrong word, but it shares that duty of protection among the community and among women. I think that's basically what feminism is, and says that actually we should be bestowing on these friendless women the same protection that a woman with high connected male kin has. It's a very difficult system to enforce. To some extent, we try and use police, criminal justice system, whatever, to do that job. It's a hard job to do, but that is basically the modern project, and I think it is born out of Christian morality.
Interesting.
I found that explanation of like this movie ties into Christianity's and feminism is like so interesting. There's an interview where Diablo Cody says like she's asked all the time, does she still believe in God? And she says yes. And she gets mocked by her friends for it.
I find that interesting more than anything, honestly. You know what? Good for her. Stand 10 toes down on your beliefs. It is what it is. But thank you for sharing that, Alex. Jess?
Yeah, that was super, super insightful and really interesting. Really, really interesting points about feminism and Christianity actually not needing to be separate, even though we as a society, for whatever reason, do tend to separate them. But what she was saying there towards the end, I thought was really interesting in the context of this movie, where Jennifer is like sort of portrayed as like, you know, very sexually active, and where Needy really isn't. But that doesn't mean either one are more valuable or more, you know, deserving of becoming a sacrifice for this stupid band to have album sales, which I think is just a really interesting point, where like in some horror movies and a lot of horror movies, the trope is like, you know, the promiscuous girls are the ones to go first sort of thing. And this also plays on that, where it's like, well, no, just because she is a sexually active girl doesn't mean she deserves anything bad to happen to her. So thank you for sharing that. That was really, really interesting.
Yeah. Well, they even in that video, they talk about like how like there are a lot of like nuances, and it's complicated, and they don't give concrete answers to everything, which is great. I think that's like the beauty of film and like a good story that does that. But they even said that there are bad women out there, and even though there's like portrayed as like all women are good kind of thing, and there are some good men, even though it's portrayed as like there's like a lot of bad men in the world. And so that's that whole like sort of interplay of like how complicated this issue is, and how the whole idea of like there's no concrete answers for everything.
I was not expecting to go this deep tonight over Jennifer's
Neither was
body.
I told you
appreciate
I
it.
had some really interesting POVs that like after watching that video, you're gonna like it's gonna blow your mind to watch the whole thing. I think.
I love it.
Jess,
I love it.
We're well behaved tonight.
Yeah.
Jess. Normally it's just us making sexual innuendos with Arnold, but tonight we were actually
No, tonight you guys got me really thinking about some things here. Damn.
Yeah, we really went deep with this Megan Fox movie. No, it's usually the chat. You know, I'm just
your chat.
Following. I'm not really following, but sharing what they're saying because that's entertaining.
That's a good point. Okay, well, gang, I think we've done it. I feel like we could probably go on and on, but I think we're at that point now where we start to wrap her up. And the question for the night is, and Chris, I'm going to start with you. Was this movie ahead of its time? Your thoughts, Chris?
Absolutely. I think when you talk about ahead of its time, sometimes I kind of equate that to, is it outclassing the competition currently? And I think it still would today. Like the complexity of this movie to be packaged in such a way that if you want to just show up and watch a good horror comedy, you can do that. And if you're like a film schnob, like this has got so many gritty details to it that is just like truly, it pays like so many great moments to anyone that watches it. Like whatever you want to get from it. Unless you wanted a whole bunch of sexy scenes, then you only got like a quick tasting and that was it. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Chris?
Yes. And then as far as a whole movie, I give it a 5 out of 5. Especially in this category of a horror comedy, like that's like so difficult to do. And you can find me at Milkman America.
I like it. Donnie, what do you think? Is this movie ahead of its time?
I don't know if I should say ahead of its time, but I think it came out the wrong time, right? Like, so it just didn't have the right platform and it didn't market properly. There's just all these elements, but I just don't think it came out on the right time, and it would have been better for it to come out later, right? But yeah, I thought it was a really good film for what it is too. What Milkman was saying, like you can watch it at surface level, or you can go back and watch it and dissect the hell out of it. And either way, it's an enjoyable watch. I watched it once before, but it was so long ago that I completely forgot what it was about. I honestly probably just watched it because I saw Megan Fox in the commercial. They probably lured me in that way, but I don't remember much about it at all. So yeah, it was a great watch this time around, where I was actually like dissecting it and trying to take it for what it was. And I have this problem where like anytime I watch a movie and I like it, I tend to dive deeper into like who wrote it, what their history is. And I do that with a lot of the films that we do on this podcast. And I was actually talking to Amber about this. I wish she could have joined us on the podcast, but she told me that the author wrote a book called what was it called? Candy Girl, A Year in the Life of an Unlikely Stripper. Oh, and wow. I think I haven't read it yet, but now I'm interested in it, right? But I think if I take that and I read into it, it's going to explain a lot more about, the dynamic between the two women in this movie and what the author was really trying to convey.
Gotta check that out.
Yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5.
Where can people find you?
They can find me at Donnie Appleseed, mainly on Instagram. If you want to check out some of my photography, 12-5 photography, also on Instagram, mainly.
Nice. Justin, let's go to you next. Was this movie ahead of its time in any way, shape, or form? What do you think?
I did some light research for its time, and its toughest competition was A Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and The Informant. So
The Informant.
Definitely bad marketing. I think this movie probably could have stood a chance on its own at that time, and I agree with you guys. Really bad marketing. I think they bait and switched the wrong people for this movie in particular. This is a clear-cut classic horror movie. It's a fun time. It's a good experience. Megan Fox is wonderful. Honestly, I thought, like you guys said, she's like one of the best assets to this movie. Her acting chops are, amazing in this. And I don't think she was that great in Transformers. I think she was just kind of like slapped in there by Michael Bay and is like, all right, just run around.
Eye candy.
No, this actually shows her skill. And quite frankly, for her to not get like really good roles like this later on in her career, makes me like kind of sad of what we could have got from her. I think she could have gotten some really big roles, some serious roles. I don't think anybody took her seriously other than she looks great and that's it. And I think that's a shame. And I think it's a shame on Hollywood and, the Weinstein Company and, shame on all of them. Like, fuck them all, for real. Amanda Seyfried, also extremely amazing in this movie. I think everybody was great. Fuck you, Chris Pratt. And overall, fun experience. My vision of this movie and my overall opinion of this movie has changed since I last seen it. I think now that I have a little bit more grown-up eyes and I'm able to kind of make those connections even when having this conversation. Like, there's some things you guys brought up that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. With everything, everybody had really good points tonight, and I'm like, I didn't really have much to say because I'm like, what am I going to add that hasn't already been said, or I didn't even think of it. So I think this movie has a really good talking points on about a lot of things going on in society as a whole. So my original Letterboxd score was actually a 2.5. I'm gonna boost that up to 3.5 today. So you can find me Ghost Nerd 88 social medias. Go follow me and I can yell at y'all some more.
Thank you, Justin, for that. Jess, what do you think? Was this movie ahead of its time, and where can people find you?
I think it was absolutely ahead of its time. I mean, gosh, like the early 2000s wasn't that long ago, but it was still like a lot of ignorance flying around at that point. But what's interesting about this movie is I think that it's both ahead of its time and a total time capsule for what the early 2000s was like. Like, the dialogue, the costuming, the music, there's like the feel of it, the actors in it, like everything feels so much of the time, and yet the themes and the nuances and the comedy, all of that like is still ahead of its time. And we talked a lot about the marketing of this movie. And I do wonder, like, if they had marketed this movie properly and for what it was, if it would even really change the success all that much. Because again, like, was people ready for something like this in the early 2000s? I don't know. Like, I don't know if audiences wanted to explore like a horror comedy with all these deep themes. I don't know, but I do know that like I like that over time we have all sort of figured it out, and like it took a while, but like a lot of us got there and realized that this is like a great movie, and it's something that can be appreciated for what it was then and what it is now. Also, you can find me at Jess Kwazz, JessKwazz, on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube. I'll be launching my YouTube channel in a few weeks, so please follow me there. I'm really excited about it. I think by the time this episode comes out, it'll be very soon. But my first episode is going to be a deep dive into all the scandals that surround the show Euphoria. And I'll be doing video essays on pop culture and movies. So if you like what you heard about my opinions tonight, please give me a follow there.
I would love to talk Euphoria with you if there's ever a chance, because that show is...
There's a lot to unpack.
Me too. I want to talk
about so much to say about that show.
Let's just say it is a show.
It is a show. It will always be a show. It's a show.
Thank you, Jess. For that, I appreciate that. What was your? Did you say you had Letterboxd? I can't remember.
Yes, my Letterboxd is also Jess Kwazz. My star rating for this is 5 stars. It's a banger. And after this conversation, like I said, like exploring and unpacking all these things, I just love it more. There's so much that this movie offers that I watched it twice this week in preparation for this episode, and there's still things I didn't even pick up on until talking with you guys. So after this conversation, absolute 5-star banger for sure.
Nice. Thank you for that. All right, Alex. What do you think? Was this movie ahead of its time?
I agree with Jess that it was also ahead of its time, but also a time capsule. Like there were certain things that kind of made me like kind of PTSD in a sense, like seeing like hearing the music, the style of the comedy, and the way it was like the timing of it, the pacing. It felt like while I was watching a CW horror film. That's what it made me feel like. I was watching like something on that channel, that network, and I was like, oh wait. And then there's Adam Brody there. His new show, Jennifer's Body, coming to you on Thursday nights. Like, again, the music, just like that. And at first, before I had watched that video, like actually multiple videos of like getting people's thoughts and like theories about the whole thing. And I had scored it a 3.5, just because the whole idea that it did feel a little bit dated. But after like doing my research, I was like, this is deserving of a second watch. I really, really loved what I saw after that. And that's why I was so excited to like have this discussion with you guys. I thought it was like really an interesting thing too. Like at the very beginning, they talked about that whirlpool in the outskirts of the town, right? And like, they're like, they don't know, like, where does everything go? And then they show that the knife and the ball comes back. Like they found it finds it in the stream. And it's like that kind of like also this symbolic thing that like where they're going back to the whole passion narrative. They like, it's like when Jesus gets sacrificed and he comes back, he punches through death and is able to like reveal himself and get redemption or vengeance or whatever you want to call it. That's the same way that like Jennifer is able to get revenge. Even though this is not a vengeance film, her spirit lives on within Needy. She understands that she still loved it. She loved and cared about, even after she kills Jennifer at the end of the film. She even says like, Jennifer is dead already. So they had to like kill her. So like this whole thing was like the real Jennifer she knew, she cared about and wanted to take vengeance against these boys that like these villains.
We didn't even touch on the movie opening in prison with Amanda Seyfried's character and ending with her. I completely forgot about that whole thing. And yeah, that was like, it was bookended by that. I thought that was really well done. So,
dude, you just continue to keep blowing me, man. Blowing my mind.
I had a 3.5. After this discussion and after like seeing it a second time from like watching all those videos, I definitely give it at least a 4.5. So 4.5. You could find me on Daily Dares on all the socials.
Well, thank you for that, Alex. Yeah, Arnold, you're the last man standing, my friend. Does this movie, was it ahead of its time? You don't even have to answer if you don't want.
I'm so blowed, mind blown, like
bloated.
Gosh.
That's what we usually do.
Well, I just have a lot of salt, like sodium, over the past couple of days. I had 7 pieces of fried chicken yesterday at Shakey's before watching this movie. So, but what was the question again?
The question was this: do you think this movie was ahead of its time in any way?
Alex and Jess, you guys said it very well. That it is ahead of its time, but also a time capsule. Like, it's like you guys got into my mind. I was like, yes, that's the perfect description. But also, I couldn't help but think of I think this movie would rival Sinners. I think it was, especially after talking about it. I mean, Sinners was I mean, visually, I think a lot better, but also, I mean, according to the chat, this was a lot better visually also. I'm pretty sure I know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But
you like the cinematography, is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah. Cinnamon is great for you. It's
You
great for your
appreciate
blood
a good
pressure.
DP.
Cinnamon is
Director
great.
of photography, obviously.
Oh, did you say cinematography? Oh, never mind.
Director of photography. Cinematographer, it's interchangeable. Yeah.
I thought we were diving deeper into food for whatever reason. But, and we are past another 30-minute mark, so I'm not sure if I should say this while
we're due.
I swivel my hips. I'll do that. I'll do it. I'll just do it later.
You have to keep your mouth close to the mic, but still do the spin and twist and everything. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be too hard.
Do that for me. Do it for me right now.
He's tired. His ankles are sore.
His ankles are swollen from all the sodium he's eaten.
I only had 7 pieces of fried chicken.
Only 7 pieces of chicken from Shakey's.
They're a bunch of lunch.
Extra salt.
Shout out to my Hinda.
No free publicity on this show, Arnold. Remember that.
Arnold, you're salty.
Yeah, get them to pay for a segment like Arnold's News and Meter sponsored by Shakey's. you know?
Are you saying that I'm very salty, just like how Jennifer was saying how Adam Brody was?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's exactly what we're saying.
I could only imagine.
Yeah.
The slang, the heavy slang that they used at that time was great. It was a good little throwback. And when we watched the preview, I saw that Panic at the Disco. I gotta go back now and try to figure out, because I'm a fan of Panic at the Disco. I went to some of their concerts, and I love them. But this was a great movie. I definitely do think it was ahead of its time. When I first watched it yesterday, I was my initial thought was a 3.5, but then after I started to think about it myself, and was like, it bumped up to a 4. But then after dissecting it with you guys tonight, I'd have to bump it up to a letterbox 4.5. That's my letterbox score. It was really, really great movie. I am gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
And so that's my score. You guys can find me. I'm Arnie Kalego everywhere. Instagram, TikTok.
Well, Arnold, it's that time of the show, right? My favorite part of the show.
Another
time for the Arnold Snooze-o-meter. All right, Arnold. So you kind of hinted on it earlier, but yeah, tell us.
Yeah.
What is your snooze-o-meter score?
It was a 1 completely because of me. I'd have to give it a half Z rating.
Wow.
Had I not gone to Shakey's Bunch of Lunch, I probably would not have been a little bit heavy-eyed. Yeah. I have to say that the
How many rounds of Bunch of Lunch did you go for?
How many hours?
How many rounds did you go?
How many
Did you get
rounds?
mashed potatoes as well? And spaghetti?
Yes.
He said hours.
Hold on. You said hours at Bunch
Yeah.
of Lunch? Did you spend the whole time from open
I
to
thought
close?
that's what you asked.
I said rounds. Rounds.
Let's see. I had
In
a
this
plate
economy,
of salad.
Arnold?
I had a plate of salad. You gotta have balance.
Oh, yeah. Sure. That's
And
very
then
light. Did you put
That's
blue
not a
cheese
bad
dressing
snooze.
and Belgian Island?
I had a lot of beets.
Lots of antioxidants in the beets.
Yes. Yeah. It was very good for you. Helps to wash away a lot of the fat. So
There you go. See?
So I think I needed to eat more of the beets. But enough of me and my beating. What do you have to say about this, Mr. BOOTZ Too Big?
So I actually want to, in lieu of my reading my review, I want to go over my raw notes that are out of context, and I don't even remember what the hell I was talking about. Maybe you guys can help me. Let's see. Door knocker's monologue is peak. I don't know what the hell that means. Door knocker's monologue is peak. Anybody? Okay, maybe that's just, I don't know what the hell I was talking about there. MoveOn.org reference is peak. Didn't expect that in Jennifer's body. Penis cheese, we talked about that. Amanda Seyfried's boyfriend, Justin Bieber haircut, we talked about that. PMS isn't real. I think Jennifer said that at one point. PMS isn't real, needy. That was good. Emo kids, fuck condoms. I don't know where that came from. Did someone mention condoms at some point? Holy nightmare, sex villains, I wrote. Jonah sitting in the cuck chair. Am I too big? He said to her when they were doing it. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know whether to be horny or horrified. That's just me saying that. Indie bands want to be on the Dave Letterman show. I was like, I don't know. The kids back then wanted to be on Letterman. That's kind of an interesting.
I think they wanted to be
reference.
on Conan.
Yeah, that makes more sense. She can fly. LOL. Does somebody fly at some point? Was it Jennifer?
She
Yeah,
okay,
Jennifer.
yeah, she levitates. And then that line is also really good because
So good.
Chip goes like, "Oh my god, she can fly." And Needy goes, "No, she's levitating. It's not that impressive."
It's such a great
It's so
throwaway
good.
line.
That was good. Don't need laxatives to stay skinny. LOL. I don't know why I wrote that. What's the context?
Because-
She says that too.
She does say that. Okay, good one. I go both ways. That was in the trailer. I put rip Chip. Is she not going to take a shower after all that? She's still covered in muck. Butt squeeze. I don't know what that's about. God, you're butch. Somebody said that because I have it in quotations.
Oh no,
I think that was
when
Jen-
she has the box cutter that she got from Home Depot, and she's like, and then Jennifer's like, God, you're
God,
butch.
you're butch. Yeah. I'm glad it was Home Depot and not Lowe's. No, I'm just kidding. And what way was this movie? Okay. That's it. That's all my raw notes. And tonight's going to be their last show. Did somebody say that at some point? I don't know about that.
No,
Yeah,
that was like.
Yeah, that was at the end.
She's gonna
Okay.
kill him. She's gonna kill Low Shoulder.
Oh yeah, and
And,
if you watch the credit scene, they show all the pictures, like the FBI pictures of them dead
Oh, that's
because she
right,
went to
yeah.
kill them. Yeah.
Which also that image of her walking down the hallway staring into the camera is really, really spooky.
So good. It was such a nice touch to be like, hey, this is a horror movie.
That waterfall is real. That Devil's Kettle waterfall. That's a real place in Minnesota. You can find it at a state park.
And you can find me on Letterboxd, by the way. It's too big. You can find the show. You see what I did there? You can find the show everywhere else. We're everywhere, guys. We're on TikTok. We're on Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, X. Visit our website, neverseenitpodcast.com. Email us, podcast.neverseenit@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you like the show, leave us a comment, leave us a review. Big thanks to Mr. Kyle Maps and the Burn Cycle for the intro and outro music. You can follow Kyle on Instagram at selfies_food_and_pets. Thanks to HLP for the Arnold Snooze-O-Meter music. Thanks for listening and watching. Any final thoughts from the gang?
Megan Fox's best performance, hands down.
All right, guys.
Love you, Megan Fox.